frontage like that. And so just to be nice to the people who come here, it's this. This is the big building, and this is Commerce. Very long and very horrible. Although once you get inside, that's where all the showrooms are, so that's great. And so it's part of our landscaping. Actually, we consider this to be a single project. Landscaping Commerce and landscaping the Central Plaza. And by the way, we think that the international market, this is entirely their land, and they should do it. And here's what it looks like. I mean, really, why should people put up with this? You know, do you know what it feels like in Atlanta or Las Vegas or anywhere else civilized? This is really a terrible face to the world. Terrible face, and yet there it is. And we've combined standard issue outlay of trees, very successful Tyvek wood boards. People love to walk on these wood boards. Of course, wood rots, but there's this stuff that's made out of recycled plastic that doesn't rot and now looks just like wood. So it's soft on the feet. You can put the tables on, the old trick of the awnings, and just fill it with cafe tables, you know, the way they do in France or in Venice. Not just a little apologetic row, but essentially pedestrianizing the place, you know, with movable, rentable furniture just during the, you know, just so that people say, wow, that was terrific independently of the showrooms. You know, the place is great also. You know, I had one night here in which, you know, I had a card and everything, and if I didn't have an invitation to a place to eat, you starve. What do? I mean, it's absolutely, it's cruel and unusual punishment. And that's not what leaves a good memory. So we're putting it together. This is a specification of what we would do: attaching awnings, planting trees, 35 Season Center, fill in with cafe tables, fast food. By the way, where does it, fast food trucks? The trucks come in and serve the food. You don't need to open restaurants. It's part of your management genius. And in fact, you might even be able to bring in trees on pots. You know, why not? Like, just bring the whole thing, take it in, take it out, make it great, and it would look like that. So inexpensive, so tactical. You know, this could even be boards that you pull up. In fact, this could be made out of your pallets. You know, there are pallets by the million out there, you know, completely uncreatively, just stack, stack, stack. What are they doing? You know, you have the wood, you have the trees, you have the food trucks. You can certainly rent the cafe tables. You know, this is where we should be, where the food truck should be, and it would be just a wonderful presentation. Of course, this is the transportation center, just to orient you. Really nice place. Canvas, lightweight, nothing to it. Now, the really rather horrible parking lot. I went here to the Supremes one night, right? Temptations one night. It was, oh my God, like, it was so high school. I mean, they really don't care. You know, what happens inside is terrific. Outside, you're on your own. There is a disbalance. There's a sublime carelessness that the IMC has to the public realm. And as they said, when they're inside, they're making deals. They're doing business. When they're outside, they're not making deals. There's an absolute contradiction between the two. So there's very little interest. I think it's going to take a little pressing on these folk to say, you're leaving us behind a third-rate public realm because you're not interested in improving it to any level. You've let us here a parking lot. As I showed you already, we designed a parking lot with trees in the edge that at the center of it, like this, all the cars are parked here. You don't lose a single car. Single car, all on the edge. There are drive lanes, and at the center, a beautiful lawn, and you can do that. And that just makes a glorious place. Okay? Very simple. These trees actually can be planted in dirt because these would be permanent. You don't have to hold them in and out. Okay, so it looks nice. Not a nice rendering, but it's a very nice space. And by the way, in off times, you can have vendors underneath. You know, they can just slip in the parking lot. This could be one of the great farmers or flea markets in the world, because the trucks would come in underneath the trees, because that's where the parking space is. This could be on a good day, this could be terrific. Now, you also called, we're looking at, this is that parking lot here, the big buildings on the right, and then there's one of the world's best located parking lots. It's on the cross axis, the hill drops off, and you see the landscape. Tailor-made for a civic building, you know? And by the way, this building's fairly decent, so is this one, but there's a cross-axis. This is the one that we're saying, this should be reserved. In our plan, it says reserved for civic building. Now, you can lease it from them, you can buy it from them, but it cannot just go to a single-story furniture showroom. It's too important a site. So you asked us, could we have a place where we can have the old fly fish conference? Could we have a place where we can have, where we can graduate our high school kids? Could we have a place where we can have more meetings like this? So by this time, we were going to the sea cans, but we said, we've got to be more conservative. So we designed a building like that. Okay, see how well it fits? This is the square, this is the building inserted. That building fits a basketball arena, full size, with chairs that can be removed. It's flat roof, so you can use it for anything at all. And it has an aisle on the side, which can house, if you wish, locker rooms, obviously bathrooms, but it can also have displays, etc. It's supremely flexible, and this is how we designed it. First, you pour a slab, okay, just a slab, and you put bolts in it. Then you put some sea cans on it, like that. Those are the 8x20s, and remember, the sea cans are, they stack on ships 8 high. 8 high, they're bolted to each other, they're incredibly stable, and that's when they're loaded. Okay, imagine this, on a stable footing, bolted down and bolted to each other, it's like a Lego. Now, what makes a sea can expensive is when you try to finish the interior. By the time you're done with the fire code, and it's this and the insulation and this and the windows, the sea can is no longer particularly economical. It only works economically if you leave it alone as if it were a very large concrete block. So other than the first level, which can be used for bathrooms and storage, the rest is let go. And so you put it to the top, you stack it just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 below maximum. So it's just 6, put 3 on the outside, and then you put a roof on it. Nice, cheap metal roofs, metal trusses on top like that. And then you put a roof on it, and then you put windows, and then you stucco it. You put mesh on it and you stucco, and no one in the world would believe it was ever a sea can. Okay? In fact, what you have is a really big building with an 8-foot thick wall, you know, just like the French cathedrals. You know, it's a totally, you know, so the windows are set 4 feet deep. It's beautiful, casting shadows everywhere, and it looks like this on the inside. You know, these are the windows. Remember, this is light coming in from here. This is the aisle below, and here it is, this basketball arena. By the way, all of these can fit bathrooms and storage inside. Look at the walkway around. Full retractable seating, basketball arena, and it looks like that on the inside, pretty dignified. And then from the outside, it looks terrific, right? High Point, you know, it looks as good, it looks better than most civic buildings these days, at a fraction of the cost of what a proper thing would be. Now, you say, well, we don't have to do. I know somebody's going to come up and say, Andres, really, but we really do have the money. We're not beggars. Okay, but I tell you, why waste it? Like, why ever waste money? Why not be clever? I'm sure you could raise the next bond issue, you know, in 2014, I'm sure. But you can also start now and actually start building this thing. I think that because all of these are technically impermanent, they're temporary structures, you can have very interesting lease arrangements, you know, with you know, the Children's Museum. You don't have to buy the site. It's temporary. It's just bolted on the ground. So talk to North State about that. Wells Fargo, hey, you're not using your parking lot. Let us have 30 feet. It's temporary. Don't worry about it. If you ever sell it and you need to have the full real estate, we'll pull out. It's not expensive. And what about these people at IMC? What is it to them? They don't have a better idea. They have zero idea what to do with this parking lot. Why not make a little fee off it? And besides, wouldn't this be nice to look at? Really great. So what happens to High Point? High Point doesn't just build one more conference center. High Point is cool because High Point is moving, fast and inexpensively and quickly, and it's the talk of the town. And people would come here and say, can you believe this was built out of sea cans? No. Don't tell me. I don't believe you. Sure, here are the photographs. By the way, the outside, just so you know, this isn't, Rome, okay? This is Drive-It. This is that insulated stuff that is used everywhere. So it's not the most solid thing in the world, but it's what you get. It's mostly what you get, including your hotel has just been covered with Drive-It. So, unfortunately. But again, it's a temporary building. We think it's terrific. Now, this building, which I was told to demolish, is the coolest building in town. Now, you have to be a young person to understand this. But I understand it. They're tired of rhetoric. They're tired of styles. They're tired of, gables. If you show them one more oak cabinet, they'll puke. They just can't stand it. That's why IKEA succeeds. They want simple, they want sleek, they don't want rhetoric, they don't want to be messed with, and a nice, elegant building with a grid like this, just a white grid. So we went inside this building. Do you know that it's got 13-foot ceilings, and that it is actually, if you look at it on the inside, it is one of the greatest loft buildings in the world. Okay, and you're looking for a loft building. Everybody says, can you find a good loft building? And that's because you're looking for brick. Well, why don't you get some faux brick, if you must, and put windows. But you don't need a faux brick because the coolest color now is white and simple inside. And already there's a floor inside that is painted black, black, black with the beautiful windows looking out, and you cannot believe how chic this is. Now, let me bring up something which is very radical. Why is this going to be knocked down? Oh, because it has to be sprinklered, right? Now, you say, well, isn't that all right? Isn't that all right to sprinkler a building? Don't people sprinkler buildings? I said, yes, when you have real estate value. But when you have zero real estate value, when actually the worth of this building is you're at minus $2 million, which is what it costs to demolish it, then a sprinkler is a deal killer. So then I asked about the building. Aaron Clinard had his office there for 20 years. I said, Aaron, what was the incidence of injury and death in these 50 years this building has been there without the sprinklers? And the story is exactly zero. Okay. Now, what you're getting here in America is a complete deformation of reality. Because the reality is that this building is poured concrete, absolutely solid, first-rate poured concrete. But a book says you have to sprinkler it. But there's no actual evidence that you need to sprinkler it. In fact, anybody who sees it say this is one of the safest buildings in the world. But the book says, and then they say, well, Andres, you're theoretical. You're theoretical. I say, I'm sorry, I'm not theoretical. You're theoretically. Because you're off the book and I'm off the reality. And furthermore, it was only until very recently that everything has to be sprinklered. And you know why everything has to be sprinklered? Because this sprinkler lobby was present and has been all over the United States to do that. And when all these mini lobbies are everywhere about double glass and insulation this and all this incredible stuff that has virtually doubled the cost of construction unnecessarily, are you there? Am I there fighting them? Is the AIA there fighting them? No. It's only the lobbies that come in and come in and come in. So everything is escalating. Okay? Now, who loves it? The sprinkler guys, the architect guys, they don't care. They get hired for that. Who is against this? The only thing that's against it is that the young people can't afford to be anywhere. So the consequences are absolutely devastating. And one of the things we want to do is pioneer a whole type of contractual coding, and I want to spend a little time on this, in which, Okay, let's say I were the architect. Do you know that I have to seal a drawing, and I'm 100% responsible, no matter how many inspectors saw it, no matter how many months I spent with the city, no matter how many additional drawings, you know, I wasted proving things, no matter what it is, okay, I get inspected to death, and yet when anything happens at all, do I even think of calling the city? Excuse me, you guys approved it. You guys inspected it. Shall we share the liability? No, 100% me. And I have liability insurance. So why do I go to the city at all? Why don't I just go and I seal it, and the engineer who designs it seals it, and we seal it, because we, the professionals, are 100% responsible, and we have liability. And I will sign that contract at any time, because it helps me not at all to suffer through 6 months of impossibility, nor does it help my client to waste a lot of money, you know, when actually you can inhabit that building. If that building had never been evacuated, it wouldn't have had to be renovated. So what's up with that? And that is the agenda that I would like to develop in great detail here. And I would like that this, and I know everything's against us, but you know what? We're up to here. Everybody is sick of it. The whole country is up to here with bureaucracy. And we have some really interesting law professors out of Richmond and out of Greensboro, smart guys, Harvard guys, you know, who say, this is it, and they're willing to volunteer to take us there. And so this is going to be an agenda, and we're going to take your city, you know, our firm, and my friends are going to take this city and see whether we can pioneer a kind of code that we called a pink zone. Why do we call it a pink zone? Because pink is light red tape. Okay? Now, there is red tape, but it basically has to do with accepting responsibility. Who takes responsibility? The city takes responsibility. I'm sorry, the city is not taking any responsibility. They're just causing a pain, because the responsibility reverts entirely to the architect and the developer and the owner. So I'm willing, what I need is a contract from the city that I will self-inspect. You know, and I'll deal with the situation. Interesting stuff. Because we can't lose this building. By the way, I think this is going to be backed all the way to Raleigh. You know, this is the kind of state that actually I've seen drowning. This state used to be like Texas. I remember that my two favorite states to work 10 years ago were Texas and North Carolina. There were two states where you could get things done. And now I come back, and it's like a different world. What happened? You know, just what happened. Now, if you have a place like Charlotte that has high real estate value, you hold your nose and pay. Who cares? I'll just pay the architect more. I'll just pay the inspectors more. I'll sprinkler anything you want, because I have a profit to make. There's a differential. Here you have zero. You're underwater. Your real estate will go nowhere unless you actually throw off the existing system, which really fits you badly. So we have this guy, okay? And originally we were told demolish it so we can build an underground auditorium. I mean, an amphitheater here. But the cost of demolition, and it's a beautiful building inside and out, we said, you know, no one uses this street. Why not come over and turn it into a plaza? With this weird little cube here becoming the backstage, and we open it this way. So keeping this, the determinant was the central axis of here and the existing beautiful tree. This is the railway track. And so with Peter and a bunch of people, we did a wonderful auditorium. You can't see it in detail, but it wraps around like that, centered on the stage. And by the way, you can go down here. There's a little kind of throat that comes down where there's a third train track down there. And Peter had the idea that we could bring really cool trains, like dining cars and sleeping cars and so forth, and that and meeting rooms and so forth, and that during market, but also at other times, you could actually bring in these cool historic cars, and people could go down and use them as one more thing to do. So this also has a kind of throat that comes down. And here's a drawing. There's a drawing of a slightly irregular, and notice what happens to the street. You have a wonderful plaza, really nicely scaled. This is the old pit. We haven't changed anything here. This is the old pit. By the way, the pit is very unpleasant because it's so narrow. This just makes it breathe. And all you have to do is dig and pour concrete, and you can project, et cetera, and this could be a very classy place. You know, a nice irregular auditorium like that. Lights at the top everywhere, projection booths on top. That's the way to the train. By the way, Peter and I designed this so you could actually have dining tables all the way up. You know, they're wide enough to have round and square and quite large dining tables. You can actually imagine the food trucks on top, and just stacked dining tables, you know? So instead of standing up and eating pizza, which is what I was reduced to when I was here, I could actually sit in this incredibly elegant place and perhaps even see a show. You know, a do-it-yourself dining theater. And then this is the back with the train track. And this is what it looks now. And then we went inside and we said, these lofts are incredible. Look at them. They're so elegant. Look at that. Look at that guy. Look at that. 13 feet high, just like a loft, top to ceiling. Absolutely beautiful things. And of course, you know, it doesn't take very much to draw it. We even know how many you can build. There's 7 floors, unit per floor 6, total of 42 units. You know, solid building, really classy feeling, beautiful concrete floor on the top. You don't even have to change the windows because, you know, but perhaps you will if you wish. Very large apartments. Look at them. Look at the size of that master bedroom. Look at that loft. Look at, these are 2, 1, 2, and possibly 3-bedroom units. Best units in the area. And this is something which I think it's completely unecological to demolish it. It's also idiotic. So the university, so we have a mall, one of the 3,000 dead malls in America. And normally what we do, our firm wrote a book on it, and what we do is we retrofit them into town centers. We keep the mall, take the parking lots, put the cars in a parking garage, and add to them apartments, hotels, and offices. So together with the shops, you get town centers, beautifully located on the principal arterials. The land has already been denatured by the parking lot. The neighbors would rather have you than an empty mall. And so we've been making these 4-story town centers all over the West, all over the South, you know, nice looking town centers. And then, of course, who has money for a 4-story anything? And besides, who wants another one? Because this would compete with your downtown and possibly be cooler than the downtown, you know, in the same market. So this time we thought of something else. It's owned by a High Point University, which is to say it has a mission beyond just making money. Obviously, it has a mission to its students, to the young people. What happens after they graduate? Why not turn it into an incubator called the InkPad, okay, which is a pad for incorporation. And this is the idea they came up with. There's the mall, absolutely interchangeable. A couple of things are alive. The Target, there's already a department of High Point University. There's a potential park back here, although it's really a drainage facility. And then there's a restaurant. There's a restaurant here which does well, which is called Liberties, and the students come to. And by the way, the landscaping is quite nice. So we do this. We take the mall and we create a camp. We permit the young architecture students of the many colleges here who graduate with lots of skills and have nothing to do. They can't even find a job, and when they find a job, they're detailing stair rails. So why not bring that young talent, get them together with the young entrepreneurs, and have them build really incredibly cool little houses? You know, on the parking lot, you know, if that parking lot is thick enough to hold a truck with a container on it, it can certainly hold a container without the truck. In other words, it's a footing. And so we can allocate it and have the kids come in and build their dwellings here. And then on the inside of the mall, so that's what it is now, and this is what we're proposing. So you begin, this village, by the way, yes, the fire engine can get through, don't worry about it. But all this stuff was full of ideas of the kids building and building this stuff. And of course, on the inside of the mall, there it is. Unbelievably exciting little village. You know, just totally exciting. Because it's not a monoculture of design. You know, every year you probably graduate 1,000 architecture students full of energy, full of skill, full of idealism, and they're accompanied by 40,000 classmates that want to start businesses. Perfect, absolutely perfect. And this is what they can inhabit. And then this is the decanting. Once the commerce is successful inside the mall, they can actually come out and and build a proper street with 2-story buildings. This stuff actually has mortgages. You know, this stuff out here. The other stuff doesn't. Here's the mall, and what we're doing in the mall is punching holes to make courtyards. Okay? By the way, just to give you a sense of scale, from here to here, that's the walkway of the mall, and these are holes that form courtyards so that you can have studios inside where the shops are. I'll show you how that works. In the back, there are more experimental stuff. There's a junkyard from which the metal guys can actually make things. And then there's, of course, a place where they can actually grow food. This is the existing hotel where they can grow food. And the food you can actually cook in a legal kitchen because there's a food court. So that incubates that. You know, for once you have a kitchen that's legal. And so it's just potential. The potential to start a business. And by the way, the minute you succeed, you have to, you know, it's differential, it's highly managed, and it works. So the malls can have the meeting hall people have been looking for, tech and electronics, these are the big boxes. Tech and electronics, fashion and textiles, photo, video, music. So what is this about? Well, I heard that you were full of talent of photography. You're full of talent as you know, for craft and workplace. You're full of talent about finishes. I mean, this place is full of craftsmanship. And you have these students that actually want to make things. It isn't just about electronics. It isn't just about virtual. They want to make things. So let's put together those two assets on this mall and actually catch the students after they graduate, after grad school, after school, and incubate a whole youth culture here, which is the economy. And then they come and they stay because this is the only place. So you have 30 universities, none of which are doing this. So suddenly High Point University becomes not only itself, which is a particular niche, a very special niche, but it actually becomes the mothership of the postgraduate North Carolina students. I think the High Point University, with its management skills and its ability to make decisions, because it's not exactly a democracy, as you probably know, it has an ability to make decisions, which is absolutely crucial. And you know, the people who've been donating to this university are interested not only in the university, but in the town. And notice that I haven't called for any donations for the town. The town is low cost. But if you're interested in the town as a place that has an economic future, this would be the place to go, the InkPad. So anyway, the young people themselves came up with these things, and there are magazines emerging like this, people making anything. This magazine comes out every month. They make robots, they make unbelievable stuff. And I keep saying, it isn't just about the virtual. It isn't just about the abstract. It isn't just about financing. The real satisfaction for this generation is making things. They want to make a bicycle. They will buy a locally made bicycle. They will buy a locally made pie. They want to know where their locally made lamb comes from. You know, it's all becoming local again. It's very 1870. You know, I think this 21st century is a lot more like the 19th than like the 20th. You know, a lot of initiative and very light government regulation. The inline spaces, which are the shops inline, in the upper floor they can be studios. In the lower floor they can be incubators with the shops and the machinery and so forth. And then this is what it looks like. These are the shops, and notice that they're blue. Light blue is more public. You know, they have their own shops, and then they sleep in the back. And these green areas are the holes that come down to form the courtyards, which makes all those little shops habitable. And then on the large rooms, you have some fixed offices at the edge, and then progressively looser and looser spaces that can be continually rearranged depending on what's going on. Sometimes you might need a very large space. Sometimes you might need more of a rabbit warren. By the way, all of this is all sprinklered. It's all designed for very, very high capacity. So this is actually quite conservative in terms of code. Wonderful apartments designed. You see how they work? This is the mall. You take off a bay of the roof, you have a courtyard like that, and if you look at this, see, this is the walkway, the circulation of the mall. You have your studio in front, your kitchen, your courtyard, which gives you the light for the bedrooms on both sides, etc. Okay, now, a conventional inspector, such as is currently constituted in High Point, would find 20 reasons, none of them valid, to prevent this, including that it's not zoned that way, that this, what happened, you know, you can just imagine. A field day of negativity. Because there's a field day of negativity at the level of what tile you can use on the floor if it's 3/8 of an inch too thick. Okay, so imagine something like this. And yet this is inhabited by crowds of people. This is possible. Okay, you just have to allow it to happen. Some nice drawings. You know, we had a couple of volunteer kids from nearby colleges in 2 days. They said they wanted to know, this is what I can do with two sea cans, 3 sea cans, 4 sea cans, 5 sea cans. Beautiful stuff. Sea cans and sliding glass doors. So we can make these shanty towns all the way around. Look at them. Absolutely awesome place. By the way, and this is done by a 4th-year architecture student in a nearby college. So imagine the multiplication of this creativity, you know, with 50 and 60 young architects, with 50 and 60 buddies doing this. You know, it could just really take off. And then finally in the back, I described already alternate energy, building technology. There's always a back. I always like to have a backstage. This is the front stuff that's really nice. The backstage is where the dirtier stuff happens, you know, where the tools are kept, where the farming takes place. And then, of course, we need parking. So we're keeping a swath of parking here near the Target, and this can continue. By the way, if any of these department stores remains, Dillard's, perfect. We can buy our clothing. I mean, there's absolutely no reason for anybody there to leave. It would simply provide more mixed use. I don't know where the rendering is. I showed you the rendering. Okay, now here is another thing. This is the shopping center from 1960, designed by Peter Freeman's father, and it was very elegant at one point, and it's called the College Village. This is the tail end of High Point University approaching, and it's in full expansion mode, approaching, and it has a road that actually leads exactly nowhere. Okay, this road leads nowhere. Could we turn this into a village? As it happens, one of the young people in the team wrote a thesis last semester studying the relationship of 40 American universities to their main streets, from Stanford to Vermont to Princeton, all of them. And 36 out of the 40, kind of randomly selected, 36 out of the 40 straddle the main street. You know, it's just part of the main street, i.e. your main street, the main street we're making. And there's 6 that don't. And if it's a mile away, it just doesn't work. Mile away is too far. And what they do is they develop a localized, specialized main street for the students. High Point University is a mile away. So it's a classic instance in which it needs to develop its own localized thing. And the kids are already going to the shopping center, but the shopping center isn't very nice. So could we convert this parking field with its stores here into a main street? And here come the liner buildings again. A liner building is a one-sided building that has a good side and a bad side for parking. So we keep the bulk of the parking visible from the street, which we call a B grid, because we're not trying to repair that street. That street's pretty miserable. What we want is this good street coming from the town, which we've deflected. See, this street goes first. We deflect it into here. It enters seamlessly. And suddenly you arrive at a main street with intersection, masking building, a square. And on this side are 2 or 3 stories of residential. Graduate student, could be the university hotel they're looking for. And on the other side are the shops that are useful stores. Yes, some entertainment stores, but useful stores. The market remains. So this is the A grid here. The gas station is rebuilt. These are pads for the food they like. So what you do is get something that's double-sided. This is A grid, which is to say really nice to walk on, and then this is B grid. So it's a two-sided thing. It's a two-sided thing, and there's a lot of capacity in here. So that's designed, and it looks like this. Okay, so this is the shopping center rebuilt to the old elegant way of William Freeman was your father? William Freeman in 1960, really elegant 1950, you know, very thin columns. Just imagine a kind of New Orleans, you know how the New Orleans balconies are made out of columns. And on the other side, 2- and 3-story buildings. You know, this one could be a hotel, a 4-story hotel, and street, wonderful shops on one side, et cetera, the supermarket there. This isn't a good drawing, but when you see this, the good drawing, you'll be amazed. And so this could become the university center. Then we spoke to the country club because everybody found us. And they said they didn't need the 9 holes. Nobody had a time to play 9. But that 6 were now fashionable. 6 holes. Because you play 3. And by the way, they also have a beautiful 18 somewhere else. They have beautiful 18, so they said, what can you do with the sort of decrepit tennis courts, and could you actually reduce our site to, and we came up with of course, what everybody loves now, which are the community gardens. Hottest thing, #1 hobby, and we think that people downtown who may be members of this club who move into the new apartments that we're discussing, you know, downtown, as they get older, the house doesn't serve them right. They move into the cool apartments. They can still keep a place on the land the way Europeans do. You know, Europeans live in apartments and they have these community gardens. The key is that in Europe, in your community garden, you don't just sit there with a hoe and then go home. They're large enough and you're allowed to build a cabin. And that cabin, without electricity, nothing but flame, you know, it's grills and candles and so forth. Beautiful, quiet. I've seen them in Sweden. And the grandchildren love it and so forth. They make these little places for themselves. Very much the old way of doing things. So we designed one here on the dead tennis courts, and we took one of the holes out here, which has very nice ponds, etc., and designed a beautiful, very picturesque. And these, of course, would be available to the members of the club who are now saying, what do I do next? Remind me. You know, what's this club? Like, is this a problem of a better menu? Shall we redecorate the foyer? It's not. It's a radical rethinking of what a country club is about. It's the 21st century. This kind of gardening, which, by the way, for many people is sociable. Of course you can garden at home, but good luck you're doing it alone, okay? This is the future. Now, these are the ones that I saw in Lund in Sweden. Look at how delightful that is. You know, the kids are there. This is your little cabin for the weekend. Gravel walks. You actually have to go out and pick up your water in a watering can, which is more reason to socialize. Beautiful places. Look at that. They're 30 and 40 by 40. There's a train line, right? You see it? That's a train going by, etc. So that's an idea. And the other thing is to actually, just by way of, you know, you have 3 institutions here that are that could use each other. For example, the String and Splinter Club, no one comes at night to dinner, right? So why are you doing that? Why not send the staff over to the inn or the country club? And by the way, neither of them serve breakfast, so why not go to the Adams Inn? And you know, if you were to rationalize the 3 institutions that are most likely to share membership, they could actually have staff and management and everything. And actually, instead of going to the same old place for lunch or the same old this or not having rooms, your country club doesn't have rooms, you know, for your buddies to come visit you. You make an urban institution which consists of 3 entirely different kinds of institutions that actually overlap and can actually support each other. So you have that great multiplier effect, which is urbanism, in which 1 + 1 + 1 isn't 3, 1 + 1 + 1 is 6. You know, between breakfast and the community and the inn having access to the pool and so forth, the whole thing gets better. Those are the special projects. There's also the zoning code, the future zoning code. We are writing a zoning code. I don't know whether you can see this, and I don't know how thick you think your zoning code currently is, but this is the zoning code we're presenting. Okay, and we hope it's not more than 1/8 of an inch thick. Because the land we were allocated has every single building type, it actually could serve the whole city. The one exception is that it does not have a subdivision component in case you're developing new stuff in the suburbs, but that could be added on to it. So this could actually, and what we're saying is, well, shouldn't we wait for the new one, which is now being generated, which, by the way, is already 10 times its size, just the preamble, okay? Should we wait for that one? And I would say no one can wait for that one, and no one can use the present one. So we call this the interim development ordinance. And I would urge you to just pass it. Just don't discuss it. Just, okay. First of all, two things. You can actually understand it, okay, which the other ones you can't. And second of all, you know, there's about 300 of these in the United States working perfectly well. These are the new kind of ordinances. And if you call it interim, fine, you test it. By the way, you need to adjust it? Fine, adjust it. Pass it and adjust it, and use it for the 2 years it will take until you get your big one. You know, and maybe by that time you might decide you don't need it. But there is no time. You know, what I'm trying to get across is a sense of impatience, that there is no time. This is the kind of ordinance that will allow the young people to act. It would allow the small developers to basically to renovate without pretending that it's something like Los Angeles with high real estate value. So this is the new zoning code, which we've written for that. And you always ask us who is in charge after we leave. And so I wanted to put name to face. Wendy was before and after us. She's there. Tom is an 18-year DPZ man. He's in Charlotte, and he's been coming up all the time. This is our project manager in Miami, Javier. I only want to come here and party, so don't call me. And this is Freeman Kennett, your local architect. Here's the spirit. So we went into I went into that building, which I rather like, the old abandoned building of North State Communications. And it's got papers on the floor. And I picked up this paper, and I was amazed. You know, it's incredible the precision with which they did things. And I noticed down here a very interesting thing. This is for 1 week, okay? Listen to this. Total orders processed, 2,825. Not completed in 5 days, 41. Completed in 5 days, 2,784. In 5 days, they installed 2,784 phones or repaired them physically. Okay? Now, why does it take 2 months to get a stamp on a piece of paper? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is the American way. This is what built this place. Everybody says, well, we built this place. I saw your granddaddy, and I saw the pictures of your great-granddaddy. And they took woods, and in months they built their houses, and in years they built their factories. And the factories expanded and expanded. They trained a labor force out of nothing. They didn't have a banking system. They didn't have faxes. They didn't have anything. But they did it and did it and did it and grew and grew and grew. And now I can't renovate an apartment. Like, what's up with that? But I just want to say this. I want to end very dramatically. Because you say, well, what's going to prevent us from going forward? Nothing is going to prevent you except to get out of your own way. That's it. And I'll tell you, the young people here and the young people that came in to see us are feverish with getting on with it. They just see the potential of not having to wait. And again, I come back to it. You haven't got a plan B. There is no plan B. Okay, remember, your main industry is in slide. You need to revert to that early condition that created the place in the first place, where there was opportunity and it was easy to do things and you had skill. That's the only thing we can do. We can't build on the slide. We've got to revert to the to that initial inaugural condition that made this town great. So this is a very big plan. It's not a very big plan physically. I haven't shown anything that was costly. I haven't shown anything that was physically dramatic. But it is really, really ambitious in terms of management, you know, from the government on down. I want to end with one thing. If you think this is difficult, you have to come see the presentation that they have for this university, you know, and what was done here, which I knew was remarkable in terms of building, refurbishment, recruitment, reputation. What I didn't know is that it was done in 6 years. And I think you may have forgotten that. It's kind of shocking how much was done, but it was done in 6 years. And I would say the admiration that you have for High Point University and its spirit is really the spirit you need for the rest of your town. You know, this can't just be this little jewel out there, we love it. It has to be for everybody. So, now there's a party at 8 o'clock in the pit. So, love to see you there. Thank you.